Ecdysis. Written by Rebecca J. Allred. The waiting room is empty, but it isn't quiet. Behind the door marked private, a woman chokes out the wet, anguish sobs. Dr. Allison's secretary pretends not to notice. She greets me with a practiced, professional smile that lacks even a hint of warmth, and asks me to wait. Wait for what? I'm the last patient of the week. Always have been. Always will be. It's not like there's a line. I smile, nod. Sure, I'll wait. The secretary punches a few buttons, clicks the mouse once, twice, drags something across the screen, double clicks, resumes typing. Once I arrived early and caught her snooping through patient files. I could have turned her in. HIPAA violations are serious business. But frankly, I don't care. And even if I did, who'd believe a paranoid nutbag like me? The secretary finishes checking her email or whatever's so important she couldn't check me in immediately, and asks for my name. She knows my name, but I give it to her anyway. She asks me to confirm my address. It hasn't changed since last week. Neither has my insurance. When she's done checking all her little boxes, I take a seat on a cream-colored sofa. The room smells like those little balls of soap shaped like seashells, and an instrumental version of a song I almost recognize wafts from speakers I cannot see. There's a coffee table made of blackwood. Resting on its surface is a little Zen garden and the latest issues of half a dozen tabloid magazines. Behind the door, the crying has stopped. My palms itch. I scratch them with nails jagged from daily dental manicures. They are barely long enough to register any measure of relief. One of my fingertips slides over a pair of fine, almost invisible hairs. In middle school, the kids said if you masturbated too much, you'd get hairy palms. I don't masturbate. The hairs on my palms aren't really hair. Delusional parasitosis, eponymically known as Ekbom syndrome. I read that in one of Dad's medical texts, back when I wanted to be a doctor, too. It's the medical name for my particular brand of nutbaggery. Or it would be if the bugs infesting my body were all in my head like Dr. Allison says. Oh, they are in my head. I can feel their antennae quiver as they poke through the skin on my face, masquerading as a beard. But there are other places too. I look back to Dr. Allison's secretary. She's working on the computer again, getting ready to go home for the long weekend. Mentally, she's already gone, so she doesn't see me pinch the hairs, pluck a beetle from my palm, and toss it into the Zen garden on the table. It lands on its back, legs combing the air a few moments before it rights itself and burrows beneath the sand. The door to Dr. Allison's office opens. A short woman with puffy eyes and dark hair pulled back into a tight ponytail exits. Her son is dead. Just like my mom. I know, because Dr. Allison's secretary isn't the only one who has been snooping in patient files. Lately I've been thinking about this woman. Every week I think about stopping her as she passes me in the soap-scented waiting room, wrapping her in my arms and allowing sorrow to flow freely between our wounded souls. We would share everything, she and I, and we would be made whole again. The woman woman's eyes never leave the floor as she moves across the room, her shoes whispering against the high-quality beige carpet and carrying her out of the building. Dr. Allison lingers in the frame of her door marked private. She invites me inside. Dr. Allison isn't my first shrink, and she won't be my last. My first therapist was Dr. Carlson. He went to medical school with my dad. I went to see him when the bugs first showed up. Back then, they didn't call it delusional parasitosis. I know because Dad has copies of all my medical records up until age 18 in a locked drawer in my office. They sit right on top of Mama's. Dr. Carlson was cool. He had red hair and a beard and smoked cigars. Not during our sessions, but always when he came over to drink wine and talk shop with Dad. He told me the bugs were all in my head too, but that it wasn't my fault, because Mama had put them there. They were contagious, like the chickenpox, so Mama had to go to the hospital for a while. When Mama went away, so did the bugs. Folie et douce, French for madness shared by two. The medical term is shared psychotic disorder. That's what's written in my clinic notes from Dr. Carlson. Dr. Allison's office doesn't smell like soap. It smells like lavender and tears. There's no music in here. Only the soft, predictable tick of a clock counting down the minutes with malign diligence. The walls are lined with bookshelves neatly organized. A desk with a computer, a stack of folders, patient files, a fountain pen, and a lead crystal paperweight is nestled in the corner. Near the center of the room are a high black leather chair and a couch. She sits on a chair and gestures to the couch. Usually I lie down. Today, I sit. She comments on my beard, says she likes it. She's lying. And then asks how the last week has been. I tell her my roommate is mad at me because he thinks I killed his cat. She asks if I did, and I tell her I didn't. I'm lying, sort of. And she asks how that makes me feel. I tell her I feel itchy. Last time I saw Mama alive, she was lying in an expensive hospital bed. The bugs hadn't bothered me in months. Both Dad and Dr. Carlson thought it would be okay for me to visit. She looked different. Not like Mama at all. Her soft yellow hair had been cut short. Dad said it's because she's been pulling it out. The medical word for this is trichotillomania. There were little red sores all over her face and scalp. She wore mittens that she couldn't take off. Mama just lay there, ignoring both me and my dad, murmuring over and over again that she was hungry. I begged Dad to get her something to eat. He patted me on the head, told me I was a good boy, and asked me to keep Mama company while he stepped out to get some graham crackers. As soon as he was gone, Mama popped out of the bed like some lunatic termite-infested jack-in-the-box. She told me that the bugs were hungry, that if she didn't feed them soon, they would eat her instead. Tears welled up inside her eyes. Tiny black specks swam in them. Mama kissed me on the forehead, and I felt something crawl out of her lips and onto my scalp. I pulled back, running my hands through my hair, trying to dislodge the invader. When I looked back at Mama, she was standing very still, arms outstretched, staring at the ceiling. Her mouth was wide open and a torrent of black vomit. Not vomit. Vomit doesn't writhe. Spewed from it. I screamed and screamed and screamed. Dr. Allison asked if the new pills have been helping. At first, I don't answer. I'm staring at this floor. One of the bugs has escaped. It's meandering across the neon weave. Hormesis is the medical term for the sensation of insects crawling in or under skin, but it's the itching that really bothers me. The medical term for this is pruritus. She asks again if the pills are helping. I answer in the affirmative. Dr. Allison follows my gaze, asks what I am looking at. I change the subject. The last time I saw Mama, she was lying in an expensive wooden box. Her hair was long and soft again. A wig and makeup covered most of the holes in her skin. Neither, however, could disguise how hollow she was. Dad had said she'd gotten so skinny because she stopped eating. The medical term for this is anorexia, but I knew better. She hadn't stopped eating, she had been eaten. During the service, a procession of tiny insects filed out of the casket and onto the floor. They looked like ants, but they weren't. They were smaller, harder, meaner. They formed a quivering semicircle around the coffin. Their soft hum was a nearly inaudible requiem. I pulled my feet up onto the pew and cried. Dr. Allison was scribbling furiously on her yellow legal pad. I'd never spoken about my mother before. The funeral was bad, but nowhere near as bad as what happened that night. I was dreaming about Casey Nelson. In real life, she was a redhead, but in my dream, she had yellow hair like my mom, and her face was round and healthy, free from blemishes. Her eyes were lined by thick velvet lashes, and they glittered like geodes. Casey smiled as her lips whispered permission. I reached out and touched her, and she did the same. But where my hand closed around soft, palpable tissue, hers gripped flesh turned nearly to stone. I moaned and felt my crotch moisten. Casey looked at me, but she wasn't smiling anymore, and her eyes had lost their mischievous sparkle. She released her grip and raised her hand to eye level. It had turned black. I shrank back in revulsion, only to realize it wasn't just her hand. My groin was black, too. Necrosis is a medical term for premature tissue death. At first, I didn't think there could be anything worse than a lap full of necrotic penis, but as I reached a trembling hand down to examine my discolored genitals, I realized I was wrong. The stain didn't just cover my withering erection, it was coming from inside, and it was spreading. Little blebs of darkness separated from the primary mass, budding off like spores. They sprouted legs and antennae. I woke up, horrified to discover it wasn't just a dream. The bugs were everywhere, clinging to my sheets, swarming over my thighs, marching up my belly toward my face, and my silent, gaping mouth. I tumbled out of bed, knocking the lamp off the nightstand. It clattered loudly but did not break. A few seconds later, the hallway light blinked on, and heavy, rapid footsteps climbed the stairs. The light worked the insects into a frenzy, desperate to get back inside. They filled my eyes, my ears, my nose. I gagged and choked as they fled down my throat. That's how Dad found me, writhing on the floor, choking on my own nocturnal issue. I tell Dr. Allison that it is my fault, but Mama is dead because I couldn't help her. My beard quivers and I tug at it, dislodging a handful of beetles in the process. Dr. Allison asks what I think I could have done to help Mama. She doesn't notice the insects tumble from my fingers and scurry toward her. I explain that the infestation is too much for a single person to accommodate. Mama hadn't been trying to kill me that day in the hospital as I had thought at the time. We shared the burden before, and she desperately needed to share it again. But I had been too afraid. I hadn't understood. She tells me that this is a major breakthrough, that the insects are just a representation of suppressed guilt, that all I have to do is learn to accept that I am blameless in my mother's death. The bugs will go away. The itch is almost unbearable now. After that night, Dad and I didn't talk much. He assured me that what had happened was just a normal part of growing up, and that Mama's death was responsible for transforming a normal run-of-the-mill wet dream, a medical term, his nocturnal emission, into the nightmare I had experienced. Whenever I tried to broach the subject of my affliction, Dad would just turn away and tell me to discuss it with Dr. Carlson, then Dr. Livette, and Dr. Cotner. He was incapable of sharing the burden of my illness any further than financing its treatment. If he suspected anything when the Girl Scout disappeared while selling cookies on our block, he never said a word. Maybe because after that things got better. A lot better. For a while at least. After nearly a decade of doctors and drugs, I stopped scratching and started sleeping again. That was the stretch where both Dad and I thought I was well enough to pursue a career in medicine after all. I moved out, enrolled in pre-med classes, even took the MCAT. Scored damn well too. I was out celebrating with some classmates who had also scored well when I felt the twinge. I always get a little anxious when something itched. I couldn't help it. It was a conditioned response, but this was different. The tickle between my left index finger and thumb wasn't the usual proprioceptive itch, that the medical term for an itch originating in the skin. I'd learned to accept as part of normal human physiology. It was deeper. As the weeks passed, it grew in both distribution and intensity. I tell Dr. Allison that Mama's isn't the only death I'm responsible for. And she frowns, the excitement of our breakthrough melting from her face. I tell her I lied about my roommate's cat. That had been an experiment because I felt so badly about the homeless woman and the Girl Scout, especially since she'd been in an accident. I stand and pull my shirt over my head, revealing constellations of angry red sores. I scratch at them, and Dr. Allison asks me to please return to my seat. Her face is calm, but her eyes are broadcasting an SOS to an empty ocean. She knows her secretary has gone home. There is nobody here to help her. I am the last patient of the week. Always have been. Always will be. It was Dad's birthday, and he invited me over for dinner. He'd been pressuring me about medical school applications, and that night, I finally mustered the courage to tell him what I'd known for the better part of the semester. That no matter what my MCAT scores had been, or how outstanding my letters of recommendation were, I would not be attending medical school the following fall. The only explanation necessary was for me to roll up my sleeves. When Dad saw those old familiar craters, his face became an amalgam of disappointment and rage. He spent the rest of the evening in silence. I thought he might never speak to me again, but as I was leaving, he told me to expect a call from Dr. Allison's office the following day. Cruising past City Park on my way home, the itch flared so intensely that I couldn't resist the need to rub my shrieking eyeballs. If there had been anyone else on the road, I would cause an accident for sure. I piloted the vehicle into 3 parking spaces and rubbed and scratched till my eyelids were swollen. My cheeks were soaked with tears. I opened the door and tumbled out of the car. The cool autumn air acted as a salve against my hot, prickling skin. It chased away the rank aura of failure that had shrouded me since realizing a normal life was forever beyond my reach. I did not dare get back in my car, so I walked, following the cement perimeter for about half a mile before the itch flared again. I never entered the park after dark before, but the insanity burning just beneath my skin compelled me to abandon the sidewalk and venture into the wooded area. The pricking discomfort dulled, but did not abate. As I trudged deeper into the park, at the center was a playground. A pad of swings twirled lazily in the gentle breeze, inviting me to sample the careless freedom of childhood. As I approached, a shape broke free from the shadows. I froze, fearful of what it might be, what it might want. It was just a homeless woman. She asked if I had any spare change. I didn't. If I had, I'd have given it to her. Not because of some altruistic impulse, but because as soon as she spoke, my skin ignited once more, and I knew if I didn't put some distance between us, it would be the end. I told her I wasn't carrying any cash. No, not even a few cents for a cup of coffee, and brushed past her, my interest in swings gone. Her next proposition stopped me in my tracks. She offered to blow me. The medical term for this is fellatio. In all my years, I had never had a girlfriend. I had not so much as kissed a girl, or a guy for that matter, opting instead to avoid any and all forms of sexual stimulation, as if they might spell death, if not for me, then for the object of my desire. The only desire within me at that moment was to relieve the horrible itch. Despite my disgust, I knew that if it wasn't now, it would be later, and I really did feel badly about the Girl Scout. I even kept one of her missing posters folded between the pages of my dad's old diagnostic and statistical manual, next to a copy of Mama's death certificate. The flavor of bile creeping up my throat, I turned to face the woman and accepted her proposition. I explained to Dr. Allison that what I really need is somebody to share this burden with me, someone who understands my pain, a kindred spirit. Mother, I'm crying. Choked sobs of anguish and pain, drowning out the indifferent tick of the clock. The air pouring out of me now, black perspiration steaming from my pores, infested tears squeezing from my eyes. Dr. Allison screams and leaps from her seat, sweeping away the first fruits of the ongoing cultural assault. She dives headlong switch under her desk. I snatch the paperweight and swing, striking her in the temple. There's a sound like a hard-boiled egg rolling over the granite countertop, and Dr. Allison crumbles to the ground. The bugs on the carpet race towards her and disappear into an expanding pool of blood. I remove the remainder of my clothing and move over Dr. Allison's unconscious form. I tell her that I am sorry. Call her Mama. The words materialize without a conscious thought, and then I descend, the swarm erupting, tearing through my skin, raising from my body like smoke above a raging fire. Sweet, blessed relief. I call this cycle of agony and release Ecdysis. This, however, is not a medical term, but an entomological one. There is no medical term for what I am. When it's over, I flip through the stack of files on Dr. Allison's desk, searching until I find the one that belongs to the dark-haired woman with the dead son. All I need is the first page. The intake form with her name, address, and phone number. I wipe away the tears from my face and get dressed before taking one last look at the half-consumed pile of flesh that used to be my therapist. The sores on my skin are gone now, replaced by raw, healthy tissue. But the insects tumble over Dr. Allison like grains of black sand, humming, burrowing, feeding. By morning, there will be nothing left. My stomach churns. I think I'll never eat again. Though I know from experience it isn't true. I didn't want to hurt her, but Dr. Allison was no different than the Girl Scouts or the homeless woman, or my roommate's poor, stupid cat. All fit for consumption, but not for habitation. Despite her best efforts, she never could have helped me. As I turned to leave, I glanced down at the photograph in the bottom corner of the intake sheet, clutched in my left hand, and hoped for both our sakes that next time will be different.